thank you very much for coming to the press conference. Yesterday we witnessed another PR exercise from the government. President Granger, having found himself on the back foot, sent out almost the entire AFC to the sugar belt to continue to lie to the sugar workers and to earn their keep in the government, the perks that they have grown so accustomed to. So one has to question the usefulness of these meetings. They went to Scotland, Rosal, and Enmore, and none of the issues that were raised by the team, large teams that went to these estates, was anything new or brought benefits to the sugar workers, any further benefits to the sugar workers. So the Prime Minister went to Scotland and Rosal, and he said, once again, the government is not closing down sugar. We're just closing a few estates now. Sugar will remain alive. We heard similar sentiments from this same person who is now Prime Minister pre-election, who said the sugar industry will receive significant support from the government. In fact, the sugar workers are going to get a 20% increase in wages and salaries. They got zero in the years they've been in office. And so now he goes back once again to the sugar workers with another message of hope for the future. But the reality is that they have taken the toughest decision ever. They have taken the most callous decision ever in the history of sugar by sending home so many people. So it's just not believable. Secondly, he told them that 1,000 workers will get more than that $500,000 severance. So the $500,000 severance. This is all from the DPI. Now, he didn't need to go and tell the workers that. They could have easily paid the 1,000 workers their full severance. But what he didn't say to the workers, that this government is withholding half of the severance for sugar workers, which is payable by law. And now they're making it, the sugar workers practically beg for their severance that they're due by law. So again, what did he really say to the workers? What was the message? He said the third point was the situation has placed an unsustainable strain on the Treasury. And frankly speaking, if anything is a strain on the Treasury, it's this bloated government, including Nagamutu. And then he speaks about if we quarrel, if we row, we will not find an answer. So this is after the sugar workers reacted adversely to what he was saying, the empty rhetoric that he was saying to them. So he wants to work together. But this was the same Prime Minister who a week prior to that had stood up in Parliament and argued against the Commission of Inquiry report on sugar being debated fully at the Economic Services Committee of the National Assembly. So he wants to work together to sit down and discuss issues, yet he argues against careful consideration of the industry. And then he told them that the SPU is looking for investors. So this is what we heard from Nagamoto yesterday. What is new? What message did he really bring to the sugar workers that is different than anything else that they've been already saying? And then we heard it and more that it's God who wants the industry to close, from Ramjatan. Now, this government is so incompetent and doesn't recognize that. It makes excuses for its own incompetence. First, it was the PPP. The PPP caused them to close sugar. Now they're blaming God. So this is how desperate the government is. And then Ramjatan said the industry is being right-sized. We heard from 4 other ministers, including our vacuous Minister of Business, and nothing new. Imagine half of the cabinet, practically the whole AFC, going to the sugar belt. People had high expectations. They were going with something new. And what did they say to the workers? Nothing. Oh, we're going to be doing some training. We're looking for investors. You'll get a bit of your severance now. It's putting some strain on the treasury. That's it. And sugar has a bright future in Guyana after terminating 7,000 of them. This is what we had. PR exercise yesterday. Nothing more. And so we've noticed they've said now quite a few other things. They also have a conference with the private sector, the government, and the aim of the conference is how should the workers invest the 2.5 billion in severance that they will get. Now, if a worker will get $500,000 each, that's about 5 months of eating. Carry $500,000 if they spend $100,000 a month to upkeep the family. The money will disappear in 5 months. How they are now convening a conference with the private sector to ask them to see how the sugar workers should invest their $500,000 in severance. That's the people's money. Now, this is desperation and it's ridiculous. What business can you start really with $500,000? And in fact, the people need it now to sustain themselves. So we'd see another PR exercise from this government with the private sector. And then we saw the master PR strategy that was laid out when they met with the unions. And the release that came out from the presidency said, after more than 2 hours of discussions, the parties were able to find common ground, and the unions agreed to fully cooperate with the government to find a solution which can benefit all stakeholders. What solution? Until now, I am trying to find out what solution, what did they find common ground on, and what solution are we looking at? Is it to do the things that the PPP called for, which I will reiterate once again, that land must be given to sugar workers, 2, that they have extensive training, 3, prompt payment of their severance, 4, that they be treated the same way that we treated the community of Linden, Kwakwani, etc., that is subsidized electricity, etc. And that and finally, that there should be a facility like we established in Linden when we established the business incubator through the LEAF project, and then the Linden Enterprise Network, that is to make small loans to businesses or people so they can start businesses. This is what we did. We want something similar in nature. have they decided on any of these issues? So what's I read that once again. After more than 2 hours of discussions, the parties were able to find common ground, and the unions agreed to fully cooperate with the government to find a solution which can benefit all stakeholders. I'm still trying to find out what is this solution, because the unions already said we didn't agree to the severance, their proposal on the severance. So what else could it be? What did they agree to? And so I'm not going to go into any more detail on that and that issue. So once again, we've seen this government substituting public relations for real action on the sugar industry. And sugar workers, it's almost naive to think that sugar workers would receive any significant help from this government. So whilst the president is claiming hardship and no money in the treasury, he then goes to the annual officers conference of the GDF and speaks about a massive expansion of the militia and the army, the Air Corps, the Marine Corps, buying more equipment, etc. So where this would run into multiple billions of dollars. So you can't find $5 billion for the sugar workers, and we pointed out they can't find this money tomorrow if they wish. The 18 million US alone would deal with that. Can deal with the balance of severance that they're keeping in an account outside the consolidated fund. But forget that. He's just announced a multi-billion dollars future investment program for buying aircrafts and all of this stuff for the military, recapitalizing the military. And he says we don't have money to support the productive sector. Yeah, and then, so whilst I've always supported the recapitalization of the army, and this has to be done within reason, and if you look at the budget, the capital budget of the army in 1990, and I hope that the media does some research on this. In 1990, the entire capital budget of the army was less than what we were paying one advisor in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the year. And it's unbelievable that the whole army's capital budget for the year is less than we were paying one advisor from the government at that time for the year. And you can check those numbers. It's easy. And we moved that to billions of dollars in the annual budget, capital budget of the army. We moved it up. But the reality is that Guyana would have to have a small professional army and a fairly large reserve. Because that's appropriate for a country like ours. And then Granger, apart from this plan for recapitalization, this led, you recall when Burnham bought all of those helicopters, etc., that ended up being rotten by the side of the runway. I think they removed them now. We removed them, the old derelicts at Timeri. But a lot of the debt, the foreign debt of Guyana, could have been traced back to those purchases, the GDR debt and a number of other debts. So again, we have big, huge future spending in this area, and where people's welfare are concerned, creating jobs for young people, helping the sugar workers, helping our pensioners, helping the productive sectors. No attention being paid to this. Nothing being paid to this. Once again, we're going down this route. And then, frankly speaking, to put our soldiers now to grow food it is not reminiscent. Is this not reminiscent of another era? We have thousands of farmers. They should be encouraged to grow and process food for army and for our people and to export. Now Granger wants our soldiers to start growing food, processing the food so that they can eat this food when they go on patrol. This is what he wants to put our soldiers to do. It's such a archaic. It's like Noah's idea from the Noah era idea for any president to propose this at this time. That is why I always claim that we have a president who lives in a different era. He lives in a different era. So I suspect that we'll be spending a ton of more money on things that really don't matter. Our soldiers should be working, they should be training better, we should equip them better, but they should be serving national tasks, like maybe helping to train a lot of our young people, assisting with the fight against crime, which is important, and the soldiers have a lot of skills. This is important for me. And now I notice that the president, once again, every time he's cornered, he brings up this thing about the commission of inquiry into the troubled period. So you would recall that we have debunked that list that they peddled to say that the PPP and Jagdeo killed 400 young Afro-Guyanese. They've been using that for over a decade. We made the list public, and you will see that that list that they put together has all the criminals who were killed by the police force, including people from the Fine Man gang. That it has all the policemen who were killed by the criminals. It has people who are victims of every race on that list, making up the 400. Yet that list was circulated as the list that Jagdeo killed or helped or arranged the execution, extrajudicial killing of 400 young Afro-Guyanese. This is really to ensure that among young Afro-Guyanese people, because they may not go to examine the list, they will have an adverse impression of the PPP and Jagdeo, etc. But I would urge all the young people, we will post that list up again, and please go and check the list that they used to circulate. So that's one. Two, they keep pulling out of the hat like a magician this thing about the troubled periods. Granger's been speaking about it for a long time and saying I will have a COI into this. Well, he is not being shy and putting in place COIs, the commissions of inquiry. He is not being shy about it. So why not this one? Why not this one? It's been almost 3 years, and I dared him to do this because I suggested in the past that I would like to work with him on the terms of reference, because we should look at the political operatives who were working with the drug dealers too. There's one man who sits in the parliament on their side, who's a minister now, who had a very cozy relationship with Roger Khan. They used to accuse the PPP of this, a very cozy relationship with Roger Khan. We've heard from two of the existing ministers now who sit in parliament, and a tape made public about how they were diverting attention from the Agricola massacre. We heard about that, how they were colluding to divert attention from the Bartica massacre. We have heard about many political operatives who were visiting Buxton on a frequent basis, and you have a lot of people in there in Buxton who live there, who know them, who saw them. Unfortunately, we know the soldiers themselves telling that to soldiers, because especially the senior soldiers themselves know about these political operatives, because when they tried to work in Buxton, when the soldiers and the policemen went in to confront the criminals, they were called by political operatives not to go in, or when they were there, operatives of a particular party helped to mobilize women and children to block them. So I would love to have a commission of inquiry into the troubled period. And why not extend it a little bit more, to the past and bring it up to the future too. We can have a big COI. Already the COI on the killing of Walter Rodney, the government threw that away. You notice they have a particular approach to COI, the commissions of inquiry, that they don't like. The sugar one they didn't like, they threw that away. The one about Walter Rodney, they didn't like that, they threw that away because the findings were adverse. You want to bet if this one, the findings are adverse again, then they will throw it away. Or they would say it's not, as President Graves just said, it's not gospel. So let's have this COI by all means. By all means. But let us have proper terms of reference, and let us have credible commissioners. Not a la Paul Slow. Not the Paul Slow type commissioner. Can't have that. We have to have credible commissioners. And then you will see how politically inspired many of the killings were in that period, that they got political support, the criminals. That's the difference today, that not a single criminal will find any political support, whether they come from our base or not, in the People's Progressive Party. We have an unambiguous position on crime. So that's another issue that I wanted to talk about. These are the three things. My voice is a bit hoarse and it's difficult to speak a bit, so I'd end there the press conference here. Well, available for questions.
I have a question, but it has nothing to do with it.
Yes, you are free to ask outside of.
With regards to the appointment of Chancellor and Chief Justice, you had indicated that you didn't want to consider that the end of that period is fast approaching. Have you decided in your mind what you're going to do? Have you made any sort of decision?
I'm moving closer to a decision from the weight of the evidence that I see before me. I've consulted widely. I've spoken to a lot more people. And so I'm listening to them. And some people have sent me material. And from all that I've seen, I'm leaning to a position.
Has any of them expressed any sort of, without,
No, I can't go into more details because I haven't told you.
Has any of your persons we consulted with raised any concerns with the process?
With the process?
Yes. Leading up to that person being chosen.
Okay.
Or those persons.
There is a body out there who believes that this should have been a more collaborative process. And that's, there is that body out there who believe that this whole process, the search, should have been more collaborative. There's another group who believe that it should come, that the people should come from within our judiciary, the complement of judges we have. You have different groups, and so soon the president will know the position of that.
The issue of the COI inquiry. You said that you would
Yes.
move and that you have already lent your support in terms of giving a list of persons who died. But if called upon to give, not necessarily you, but anybody from the previous administration to give them evidence and partake, is the PPP willing to do so?
We will give as much as we can. We can give as much as we can. I know there are lots of soldiers, because I had reports from them, and policemen who are still in the army and the police, who are deeply dissatisfied because they saw political hands in what was taking place there. But I'm never going to go to a COI and call their names, because I will not want this vindictive government to damage their careers. And if they had any sense, I hope they don't sterilize the records before. But if you go to some of the G2 reports, some were sterilized, and you may see some evidence of this under the police reports, the intelligence reports. But as I said before, from the moment you say something like this, I'm cognizant that this government and its whole approach to security will send somebody over there to clean up the records.
So are you saying you nor anybody from the previous government will not be mindful to taking the stand? If you're willing to go on the stand to give evidence.
Yeah, if there is something that we know specifically of, definitely. For example, I know that there was a confession statement that the police showed me by the girlfriend of one of the criminals who went to Sassaw's place and in the tragic killing of Sassaw.
Was this, could this be the piece of information that the government is referring to? Because they did say we have. I get the impression you're saying that we have.
The people, we knew who they were. They were in prison, and some of them got killed in the shootout. They knew, the names were called there, everyone. The police showed me a ton of them, but I don't know whether they're still in the files.
But that information was passed to the previous government, the present government.
They would be in the police. We didn't take it. We didn't take any information that belongs to the police. But as president, I was sure.
But given the gravity of that, don't you think it would have been wise to sort of keep a copy for yourself? What's the case?
Because we didn't think that anyone would want to politicize this period. In fact, maybe it's naive. We never operated the same way they did. Our big focus was on development. We didn't go to the GRA and say, go after people every week because they don't vote for us. So a lot of people were, critical of the PPP, but they just went along and did their business. You didn't hear the PPP call the police or send the commissioner to go after someone because they didn't support the party. That mindset was different. With this military type of intelligence mindset, not focus on development, all day long on looking at people, bullying them. I know now how many people are being shaken down by several agencies. SOCU does it. The GRA does it for people importing stuff. They go to people's place, they say, we'll give you an assessment of $30 million. if you don't pay some. Now they have a situation that they're trying to cover up with the importation of a particular, some beer. The taxes are $182 million. They're trying to split it up. $182 million with a politician involved who called the people in the agency to give the guy a break. All day long of these deals, it's as though this government knows that, particularly the ministers, that they have a short period more and everyone is busy in a hustle. I haven't gone to the oil and gas sectors yet, and public works. Those have become huge spheres for enhanced hustling. If I'm putting it mildly. Almost every sector, you talk to ordinary people, businessmen come here and they would say, please don't, if you only mention my name, then I'm done forever doing businesses. Contractors who win, the moment they win a contract, they get a call from a party official. Can you give us $5 million? Somebody from Congress pays. Routine. That's what's happening now. There's no focus on governance, and so it's happening everywhere. And you just have to walk down the street. You live here too. You know it. You hear it. Or talk to people. If the media wasn't so divided in Guyana, frankly speaking, because you have media on both sides, then I could have gotten some of these people to speak to you anonymously. And then you can track them down. But often the media itself, even when they get a tip, they don't pursue it to the end. So look at the big DDL matter up to now, something that will cost us $80 billion. No, people just ignore it. I saw banks recently saying we'll win the case. They'll win the case and get back $50 billion when they didn't need to get back a cent because of a decision that the government made. No, we don't track these things down. All day long, we go after what the DPI says about Nagamutu. Prime Minister wears a new shirt today. Prime Minister combs his hair differently. The Prime Minister smiles, profusely. That's kind of thing that we focus on. Not really about the future of this country and and about jobs, and so it's a tragedy. And the sugar workers, 7,000 of them, who can get their money tomorrow and they can get some help. We're flush with money, frankly speaking. The Treasury is. We can find the money. It's unbelievable that they say this. And you will see that they will underspend by $30-40 billion at the end of the year again. And they said they're collecting $56 billion more in taxes this year than 2014. And Stacia said he has $70 billion more to collect. That is more. So that's going to be like $136 billion more if they collect that than what we were collecting in 2014. That's coming from people. And you don't have money to spend. You find willy-nilly a $1.4 billion to do the stadium, and you can't pay the sugar workers so they can eat. Since they didn't receive a salary the last month, because they're now receiving salary now, and they don't have their severance. Many of them don't have a saving account even. So they're now on the breadline immediately, and we are quibbling about how they must use their 500,000 holders that can't give them all at one time, they'll spend it out. This is money that is due for their service. This is the callous nature. Granger wouldn't go himself. He sends his minion. I remember the tough times in Linden when they had people blocking the bridge and protesting. We had to go on the ground as president and talk to people. And I was not lost of jobs. I was just because you had blackout in the area. Here you have 7,000 people, and he wouldn't go and tell them anything. He'd just say, have these canned meetings, and then sends out the AFC, who's trying to rebuild now because they lost everyone on the ground. But elections are coming up now, so they showed up in the sugar belt once again with a new set of promises.
Yes. Government had to revise its growth projections. This is on the economic side. Can you comment on this?
This is going to happen. We're going to run out of steam because there is investments. Growth comes with a lag. If you invest today, you're going to see the growth in the economy 2-3 years down the line because the investment, it comes with a lag. So a lot of the previous investments that were made kept the growth rate up. But since this government took office, it has not brought in a single new investment. A single new investment of like major investment. So Nagamutu lies to the sugar workers, and in his column and says $186 billion of investment. Nothing of this sort. So and I saw excepting for those gold mines that started and the ExxonMobil, and now I saw Ramjutan said God wanted them to find oil. Apart from God wanted the sugar industry to be closed. Well, the oil was found, ExxonMobil came here under the PP, the oil was found on the PPP latter days, and now they're messing up the whole future. Because with the renegotiation that they have had, really, I'm stunned. I'm stunned up to now, stunned that they would even do something of this nature. And look at all of the lectures we got from the same Minister of Finance that $55 billion of remission. Go to his 2015 budget speech when he made it. They just came in office and he said this was the friends and family of the PPP. $55 billion of remission. We need to get it done. And they got it done. And now, where would it go with this level of remission? Go to hundreds of billions of dollars of remissions. And he was citing that as good. Every single thing they criticized us for that we were doing wrong, they've gone outlandishly and done worse. From settlement of cases to corruption, no regard for procedures, no tendering system, the wanton waste, bad contracts, the secrecy in government, the incompetence is unbelievable. Everything. And so I have no doubt that we'd see the numbers slide further. So when we start producing oil in the future, we will see the growth rate pick up. So the growth rate will be higher. We'll get about $300 million of revenue in that period. But by that time, maybe 30,000, 40,000 of our people would be without a job because all the labor-intensive sectors are being killed off. And it's already happening. Over 25,000 people now without jobs since this government took office. Over 25,000. If people just look at sugar, and it's true, but the private people who've had to lay off, if you aggregate the number, it's close to 10,000 from all the stores and other places. retail outlets, etc. They've had to lay off a lot of people. And there's no new. I saw Jordan training these young people and saying to them, you know, we don't have no obligation to create jobs for you. That's not what they said on the campaign trail. So they put a little bit more money into training, train people, but they're not even creating the incentive for the private sector to create jobs. So where are people going to work? Yes.
You mentioned the meeting between the president and the union. Do you feel that the union at that meeting failed to represent the best interests of the workers?
Let me say to you that GAU has struggled a very long time. GAU and NASI, and I've always supported their struggle. And GAU will be there in the forefront of the struggle for sugar workers' rights in the future. I spoke at Enterprise and the General Secretary a few days ago, the 23rd, and the General Secretary of GAU stood next to me and spoke. And so the PPP will always support GAU. And I don't know about this conflict, this contrived thing. I saw Chronicle has been pushing this issue about a conflict between the PPP and GAU. And in fact, they had a headline to that effect. The PPP is divided over GAU. There's nothing of the sort. GAU is an institution. Now, what I can say is that the same support that we share with the union, I will not defend individuals. The workers of the country, the sugar workers, pay their dues. They determine their leadership. They're free to elect their leaders, and they're free to call for their removal at any time. That's not the PPP's business. That's not the PPP's business. And so somehow, some newspaper article was interpreted or sold by some as the PPP's position. PPP on this matter is quite clear. Now, ask me if I just read a part of the press release that was issued, and do I have concerns about it, about the government using the union for PR purposes? The answer is yes. The government got a huge PR thing out of this. Listen what they said. Again, after more than 2 hours of discussion, the parties were able to find common ground, and the unions agreed to fully cooperate with the government to find a solution which can benefit all stakeholders. So suddenly, the government says to the whole country and the international community, we're working with the union to find a common solution. I don't know to what. The union has not clarified that. They said they didn't agree with the severance, the full severance. But even in the same release, the government said that Jordan proposed the severance arrangement. It didn't say that the union agreed with it in the same release. So what was this common ground? And I have issue with something which says, when the General Secretary said, the President says, we have listened and we are satisfied that you're concerned with the issues. We are ready to work along with the government to explore the options, and we are going to give our best to see the situation out. You're right, there are no winners in this, and we're willing. We're certainly pleased with this meeting. This is the first meeting for the year we've been able to have with the government, and we believe that the meeting took place in a positive atmosphere, and we recognize that the government itself pays attention and think it's a good beginning. This is certainly important ground rule that we dialogue, that we talk and try to find an answer to the way forward. We are pleased. From GAU, we are very pleased, and it spells out the future engagement are in the interest of the workers, the industry, and the country, he said. What's the future engagement? Hiring back the 7,000 workers, paying them their severance promptly, getting the subsidy for them, the electricity subsidy, getting any land for them, getting more training, getting loans to them. What's this agreement? And that bothers me, because this is a government. How can you find them genuine? And when they've just sent home 7,000 of your members. But this didn't come from GAU. I believe GAU as a union has been fighting for a very long time. I have issues, personal issues with these sorts of statements. Because it means that all that has gone before, how many times have we tried to engage this government on trying to ask for studies to be done? GAU itself put forward a proposal. They ignore the proposal, ignore their own COI, ignore the recommendations of the consultations we have, ignore our request for it to be debated at the Economic Services Committee, sent home the people callously in the middle of Christmas, now not paying them with their severance, and you find them still a good partner to talk with when they decimated almost half of your membership. That is what, and then there's no promise to help them in the future. What is this if not a PR exercise? And so the PPP is an old party. We can see it. We saw Granger's effort to do public relations. We're not going to show up there for meetings just to satisfy Granger's governmental public relations that they're meeting with people when they don't mean anything. That is what happened here, I believe. Now, the unions came away with nothing, and the government came out with a wonderful statement. Oh, we met, big photo op around the world. We agreed with the union to work on a common ground future. But what? What is this future when the people are starving now and you don't give them the money? And they don't have any future. What is it? So that is what I have issues with. Huge issues with. But not with the union. The PVP and GAU have been strong allies for a very long time. It started from Chetty Jagan days, and that will remain so long into the future. We will support the union. You have a lot of people there, a lot of good, strong, young, bright leaders in GAU who will have a great future in building that union and keeping it relevant. And so that is important for me.
You said that the party has no problem with the union as an institution, but I think the commentaries have been surrounding the alleged rift between the party and the president of
No, party has no rift between anyone, anything. I'm just telling you issues that I have concerns about. Issues that I have concerns about, but the party is, and GAU, as I said before, are allies. We work for the same. In this case, we're fighting the same cause.